Thriving, where we share with you the things that we have learned as we have transitioned our family from struggling to survive disease to thriving, right smack dab in the midst of it, in the hopes that something that we share with you will help you, enlighten you, and encourage you as you transition your family from struggling to survive disease to thriving, right smack dab in the midst of it. So, as we talked about in the last video, we are starting a series talking about self-love. Now, everywhere you go for a while now, everybody's talking about self-care, especially during the pandemic. Self-care is everywhere, and self-care is very important. However, you are not apt to do self-care if you are lacking self-love. You must have self-love in order to really live in self-care, right? And to do self-care. So let's talk about self-love. Now, I'm not talking about being egotistical. I'm not talking about being selfish or self-absorbed or narcissistic. We're talking about having good, healthy self-love, good, healthy self-esteem. So for the purpose of this video and the series that we're doing, let's kind of define what we mean and what I mean when I say self-love. So when I'm talking about self-love, I am talking about a good, healthy self-esteem, placing a value on who you are and your happiness, right? And placing a value so much that it shows in your actions, in the way that you take care of yourself, body, soul, and spirit, in the boundaries that you set. We're talking about not sacrificing your own well-being and your happiness for someone else's, not basing your life decisions on someone else's desires, but putting a value on your own desires, on who you are, on your well-being. Now, the opposite of self-love would be self-neglect. So self-neglect would be what? Not taking care of yourself. Neglect. We know what neglect is, right? Not tending to your own self, physically, spiritually, or emotionally. Not having good, healthy boundaries, right? Good, healthy self-esteem. So we want to make sure that we have good, healthy self-esteem, right? A lot of us deal with self-esteem issues. To be honest with you, every person who ever walked this earth has dealt with self-esteem issues. Even the most confident of people have areas in which they are unsure of themselves in and they don't feel really confident in, right? Now, when we're talking about having self-love, it doesn't mean that in your eyes you're perfect and everything you see about you is perfect. That is not what that means, right? Just like if you love someone, I love my husband, I love my children, they're not perfect, but I love them in their entirety, right? The good, the bad, and the not so good and the ugly, right? You love them all in their entirety. So we're talking about loving yourself in the entirety of who you are. It does not mean you like every aspect of yourself, right? But it does mean that you have to be honest with yourself and take a good look at yourself. Know what it is that you want in life. Know what it is that you don't want in life. If you don't take the time to get to know yourself and really be honest with your true feelings, even if your feelings go against mainstream, or even if your feelings go against what you really want them to feel, you have to be able to be honest with yourself and locate yourself, right? And as you're honest with yourself and locate yourself, you find out these are my strengths and these are my weaknesses, right? These are the things I like about myself. These are the things I don't like about myself and I want to change. So the things that we have that we find that are our strengths, the things that we have that we find that we like, those are the things that we want to strengthen. Those are the things you kind of want to focus on, right? But then these things over here that we don't like, the things over here that we want to change about ourselves, we have to be honest about this category over here, right? We don't want to focus so much on the good and think that we're gonna like just push this stuff under the carpet because we don't like it. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is strengthen the good things, but then over here on this category of things that we don't like, We need to be honest about that and be honest about ourselves. Why are we like that? What is it, right? And then we categorize these things. What can I change and what could I not change? The things that you can change about yourself that you don't like, set about changing it. And how do you do that? Sometimes we don't know how to change some things. There are things about myself I absolutely do not like, right? And sometimes you don't know how to change them, or you start trying to change them and you have a hard time. So with all things, remember prayer. Remember the word of God. Ask God for help. But there's books out there you can read. There's videos that you can watch. There's resources out there, groups that you can become a part of to help you to learn how to change the things that you can change in your character and your personality that you don't like, right? And there's some things about our physical bodies that we don't like. And there's some things that we can change. We can change our weight. We can begin to work out and live a healthier lifestyle. There are some things that you can do. Now, in that category, there are going to be some things you absolutely cannot change. You have not control over, no control over it. So in the things that you absolutely cannot change, you have to learn how to accept who you are, what you are, what you have. Now in our personality, there we can change a lot in our personality, but there's some things that we cannot change. You can't change your height. You know what I mean? I mean, you might be able to put on some 3-inch stilettos and kind of make yourself look a little bit taller, but it's just an illusion. You're really the same height that you are, right? So there's some things that you can't change. So the things that you can't change, you have to accept that that's what it is. Whether you're tall, whether you're short, you can't change it. Whether you're male or female, well, they got surgeries out there that you can change that stuff in, right? But you need to just accept who you are. Accept what you are. Because the grass is not greener over on the other side, right? So just accept who you are. And in accepting that, learn to embrace it. Embrace it. You know what? This is me. And do the best with what you can with what you have, right? Do the best with what you can with what you have, and accept that that's who you are. There's other things that you can do to help build that self-love, to help increase that self-esteem. So as you're honest with yourself and you set about changing the things that you can change, and you are strengthening the things that are good about you, you want to learn how to trust yourself. And that's where a lot of self-discipline comes in. There's a lot of discipline in self-love. Self-love is not just allowing yourself to do what you want to do when you want to do it, to just, indulge in anything when you want to do it. It's a lot of self-discipline. It means not letting your flesh rule out. It sets boundaries and priorities for yourself. To set boundaries with others and set boundaries within yourself. Because I love myself, I'm not going to eat all these sweets, and I'm going to exercise because I don't want to get diabetes. Right? It's loving yourself enough to take care of yourself, mind, body, and soul, and not settle for less than what you deserve. To know that you deserve the best, you deserve good, you deserve to be happy, you deserve to be healthy. And if you know that, you know what, I value who I am, right? And I'm going to treat myself with value, then you're not going to attract people that want to treat you less than valuable, and you're not going to allow people within your borders to treat you less than what you feel that you deserve. But you have to learn to be honest with yourself, and in being honest with yourself, you can start learning to trust yourself. Let's see, you have to be nice to yourself. A lot of us are not very nice to ourselves in our self-talk and the things that we do, right? Have you ever stubbed your foot and be like, what's wrong with you? Talking to your own self. We're going to do a whole thing on self-talk later, but not today. But being nice and kind to yourself, forgiving yourself, allowing yourself to, allowing yourself to make mistakes and knowing that it's okay, right? And then to be able to shake it off, pick yourself back up, and try again. That's all a part of learning how to love yourself. You have to learn how to forgive yourself. Allow yourself room to grow and to make errors. To not talk bad to yourself, but to be kind to yourself and talk good to yourself. I know a lot in my life. I heard a lot about, and I've done this a lot, looking in the mirror and talking good to yourself. Telling yourself you're pretty. Telling yourself that you can do it. I remember being over 300 pounds full of fluid, and it was hard to move and hard to walk and hard to breathe. And I was still doing the things that I could do, and I wasn't trying to stay laid up all day and still trying to get my family ready and go to church. And it was hard, it was difficult. And I would try to walk, and I remember having to stop and tell myself, come on, girl, you can do this. That's being kind to yourself. Instead of getting frustrated with myself, telling myself, I can do this. Come on, you can do this. You can do all things through Christ that strengthen you. And put one foot down, and then have to, and then start breathing and talking to myself. Come on, girl, you can do this. Pick that foot up. You can do this. You can do all things through Christ that strengthen you, right? You're more than a conqueror. And I take another step. That's being kind to yourself, because it would have been very easy for me to be like, why are you trying to do this? Just go on and sit down. You can't, and then just talking bad to myself or about myself. So when we're talking about self-love, we're talking about being nice, being kind to ourselves. We always hear, do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. But I had an elder tell my husband something a couple weeks ago. And was it a couple weeks ago? It was a couple months ago. We were headed somewhere, and we stopped by to get something, and the elder told my husband, be as good to you as you are to others. And that thing really ministered to us, right? Because sometimes you don't realize how you're very good to others. You do a lot for others. But then when it comes to you, sometimes you can be a little skimpy, right? But part of self-love is being as good to yourself as you are to others. Not valuing others more than you value yourself. Loving yourself enough to be kind. Hot. Sorry about that. Loving yourself to be kind to yourself. Let's see here. Hold on just one moment. All right, y'all. So I burnt my tongue on that tea. So we're going to wrap this up. But I do have some things we're going to recap real quick, and we're going to call this a day for this one, okay? So let's recap here. Let me just run through some stuff real quick that I had written down earlier. So when you want to practice self-love or build your self-esteem, you want to be mindful of yourself, right? Know what you want, know what you don't want. You want to act on your needs, not necessarily always your want. That's that flesh, putting that flesh under submission. It doesn't mean that you can't do things that you want to do. You can't please yourself, but it does mean having boundaries for yourself and boundaries for others, so that you're not overindulging in things you don't need to be overindulging with, because you value yourself and you know the consequences of those things. It's taking care of yourself and cherishing yourself inside and out. That's self-love. That's self-esteem. You want to be honest with yourself, right? How to have a good self-esteem? You want to be honest with yourself. You want to strengthen the good and work on the things that you can change. You want to accept the things that you can't change. And you want to speak it until you believe it. That's where I was talking about speaking, looking in the mirror, talking good to yourself. You want to speak it until you can believe it. And you want to stay away from those who put you down or make you feel bad. It is really hard to gain a good, healthy self-esteem when you're constantly surrounded by people who are sowing negative seeds of self-doubt, lowliness, and unworthiness in your mind about yourself, or who's always talking down to you or talking bad to you. And sometimes that means family members, and you have got to either separate yourself from them, have very little interactions with them, or you got to start correcting them when they're saying stuff to you, right? And because in that, you teach people how to treat you. So sometimes you have to correct people when they say stuff to you and let them know how to talk to you. And you may have to do it for a while until they get it. But that's part of setting those boundaries. And if they refuse to get it, then sometimes you have to step away. But the basics of self-love is to listen to your body. Let's see. You need to talk good to yourself, right? To make healthy decisions for yourself and accept yourself as who you are. There's a lot of things that can help motivate you and grow you in this. Like I told you, there's videos out there, there's books you can read, and with all things, there is the Word of God. I wanted to tell you this real quick, that when we'll hit it in another video. I'm sorry about that. but my tongue is burnt. I gotta go take care of this because I gotta flow in self-love and self-care too. So remember, in all things, at all times, do you come back next week? We'll dive into a specific area of self-care and how it pertains into to you with your healthcare. Okay. Love you all much. Have a great day. Remember, in all things, do you. Bye.